You ever wander through a forest and feel completely lost, even though it's supposed to be familiar? That's exactly how it felt for Mrs. Evelyn Harper, an 82-year-old woman with Alzheimer's, as she wandered off the hiking trail in the thick forests of Oregon. The mist hung low among the towering Douglas firs, the air damp and cold, and every rustle of leaves made her heart skip a beat. Evelyn's memory betrayed her again. The familiar paths she had walked with her daughter countless times now twisted in ways she couldn't recall, and the fog made it nearly impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. She stumbled over roots and loose rocks, clutching her coat around her, muttering, "I'll find the way. I'll find it." But her voice quivered with uncertainty. She was cold, exhausted, and terrified, unaware that she was walking deeper into the forest, farther from any trail or help. Meanwhile, a small beagle named Charlie, with floppy ears and an unwavering nose for adventure, had already sensed something was wrong. Charlie wasn't just any dog. He had been through a lot. 47 families had turned him away, claiming he was too excitable, too stubborn, or simply too much work. But Charlie had a heart full of determination and instincts sharper than most humans realized. That morning, the volunteer search team had been out looking for Evelyn, following up on tips from hikers who had spotted an elderly woman wandering near the trailhead. Charlie, however, had a knack for detecting distress that went beyond smell alone. He had been training with his current foster family, learning basic search and rescue commands, and now, sensing the unease in the air and catching the faint human scent carried on the wind, he was ready to act. As Evelyn moved further into the dense thicket, the beagle navigated through underbrush, sniffing the ground, picking up the faintest trace of her presence. His floppy ears twitched constantly, nostrils flaring, and he paused only to listen for any call, any sound that might give away the woman's location. For Evelyn, every step was becoming heavier, her legs trembling, and her mind foggy from both the chill and the growing panic. She didn't recognize the warning signs, branches scraping her arms, the occasional snap of a twig, but she felt the forest closing in, turning from familiar to hostile in the span of a few minutes. That's when she heard the faintest bark. At first, she thought it was just a distant dog from a nearby cabin, but then it came again, short, sharp, insistent. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice cracking. The bark repeated, closer this time, more deliberate. A small figure emerged from the mist. Charlie, tail wagging cautiously, ears perked, eyes locked onto Evelyn. He approached slowly, sensing her fear but also assessing her condition. She hesitated, unsure whether to trust him, and the beagle sat down a few feet away, looking at her expectantly, as if saying, "Follow me. I'll get you out of here." Evelyn blinked, confusion and relief mingling on her face, but the fog and her fear made her pause. Charlie let out a soft whine, then barked once, reinforcing his message. She swallowed her fear and took a tentative step forward, following the little dog. The forest seemed endless, shadows shifting with the mist, and Evelyn stumbled more than once. Charlie adjusted, circling back, gently nudging her hand or her coat with his nose, making sure she kept moving in the right direction. His movements were precise, instinctive, almost human in their thoughtfulness. The journey was slow. Every few yards, Evelyn would stop, confused by the trees and the rising shadows, and Charlie would look back, tail wagging lightly, eyes bright, encouraging her forward. The sound of a nearby creek added to her anxiety, but Charlie paused, sniffed the air, and led her around the treacherous path, carefully avoiding slippery rocks and sudden drops. He was patient, unwavering, and completely focused on his human companion. As they moved, the forest seemed to close in even more. Twisting roots, low-hanging branches, and slick patches of moss created obstacles, but Charlie navigated them effortlessly, always alert, always protective. At one point, Evelyn nearly lost her footing on a muddy incline. Charlie immediately dashed back, nudged her firmly with his nose, and barked sharply to get her attention. She laughed nervously, "Oh, you're too smart for me," and leaned on him for balance, as if she understood that this little dog was her lifeline. Hours felt like minutes as they moved through the dense forest. The mist began to lift slightly, revealing glimpses of the trail they had strayed from, but the way was still confusing and treacherous. Charlie paused occasionally, sniffing the air, then looked back at Evelyn to make sure she was following. The unspoken communication between them was remarkable, a partnership born of trust and necessity. Evelyn's exhaustion was evident. She leaned on Charlie multiple times, resting briefly while he sat calmly, tail wagging gently, maintaining vigilance. Every sound, rustling leaves, distant bird calls, snapping branches, was analyzed by Charlie, ensuring no further danger approached. Eventually, through the dense forest, they reached a familiar clearing, the sunlight breaking through the canopy and illuminating the trailhead where search volunteers had been combing the area. Evelyn's face lit up with relief. Tears streamed down her cheeks, a mixture of fear, gratitude, and sheer exhaustion. "Charlie, you got me out," she whispered, voice shaking. The volunteers rushed forward, amazed at the sight. A tiny beagle, covered in dirt and leaves, sitting proudly next to an elderly woman who looked safe for the first time in hours. The story of Charlie's rescue spread quickly through the community. A dog rejected by 47 families had not only survived, but had demonstrated courage, intelligence, and loyalty beyond measure. And for Evelyn, Charlie was no longer just a dog. He was a guardian angel, a friend, a companion who had guided her through fear, fog, and confusion to safety. The forest grew denser as Charlie led Evelyn deeper, the mist weaving between the towering trees, turning familiar paths into a maze of shadows and light. Every step she took was uncertain, her legs wobbling, mind clouded by confusion and fear. Charlie adjusted constantly, circling back, pressing his body against her side when she stumbled, letting out soft, encouraging barks, a rhythm that said, "I've got you, trust me." The sound of a distant creek grew louder, rushing over rocks, and Evelyn flinched. "Oh no, oh no," she whispered, panic rising in her chest. Charlie sniffed the ground, then darted forward a few steps, barked sharply, and looked back. His message was clear. This way it's safe. Following him, Evelyn moved slowly, taking careful steps guided by the dog's instincts. The terrain became treacherous. Roots twisted over the path, slick with rain and moss, and fallen branches blocked the way. Evelyn hesitated, almost falling over a protruding root. Charlie jumped back, pressing against her legs, nudging her hand with his nose to steady her, then circled ahead to scout the next steps. The partnership was silent but profound, an unspoken trust forming in those moments of fear and uncertainty. As they progressed, a shadow moved on the edge of the clearing, a raccoon, startled by their approach, or maybe a coyote from a distance. Evelyn froze, fear paralyzing her momentarily. Charlie barked sharply, low and commanding, and positioned himself between her and the potential threat. He didn't attack recklessly, but his presence alone, the way he bristled, the tension in his posture, made it clear to any creature that they would not get past him. Evelyn's heartbeat thundered, but she realized she could follow him. He was her guide, her protector. Step by careful step, they moved forward. Snow began to fall lightly, dusting the undergrowth, and each flake felt like it slowed the world. The creek, now closer, glistened with icy water rushing swiftly over rocks. Charlie paused, sniffed the edge, then trotted along the safer bank, guiding Evelyn to step over wet rocks carefully, nudging her when she faltered. A sudden slip, her foot hitting a wet rock, made her fall to her knees, her breath catching. Charlie immediately circled back, his small body pressing against her, licking her hands as if to say, "I've got you. You're okay." Evelyn laughed nervously, tears mixing with the rain. "Oh, you're incredible, little guy. Truly incredible." The forest seemed endless, twisting, fog hiding familiar landmarks. Evelyn's confidence was fragile, but Charlie's constant guidance and gentle insistence kept her moving. At one point, they encountered a fallen tree blocking the path. The log was slick and wide. Evelyn froze, unsure how to navigate. Charlie leapt onto the log first, sniffing, testing, then barked once to encourage her to cross. Step by careful step, with Charlie's nose guiding and his body supporting when she wobbled, she crossed safely. Every small obstacle became a scene of quiet heroism. Hours passed, and fatigue set in for Evelyn. Her energy was waning, and panic threatened to take over. Charlie noticed. He let out a series of soft barks, nudged her side repeatedly, and positioned himself slightly ahead to indicate the safest route. At one point, Evelyn collapsed briefly onto a patch of moss, chest heaving, tears streaming. Charlie pressed closer, curling his body around her legs, offering warmth and calm. He licked her hands, encouraging her to rise slowly. She whispered to him, "I don't know what I'd do without you. I really don't." And for Charlie, it was simple. He needed to keep moving, keep leading, keep protecting. The forest was full of unseen dangers, slippery slopes, sudden drops, and hidden creeks that could sweep her off balance. Charlie navigated them all, sometimes darting ahead, sometimes returning to check her step, constantly vigilant. As the fog began to lift, distant sounds became more familiar: birdsong, the rustle of leaves, and the faint sound of voices. Search teams were nearby, calling out for her. Evelyn perked up at the voices but froze again. Her memory confused the direction. Charlie barked sharply, circling and leading her toward the sounds, guiding her through the final stretch. They reached a small clearing where the volunteers had been combing the forest. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears, relief washing over her. She collapsed into the arms of a rescuer, sobbing, and Charlie stayed by her side, tail wagging, ears alert, as if to ensure she was truly safe. The rescue team was astonished. This little dog. He guided her all the way through the forest, one volunteer said, brushing snow off Charlie's coat. 47 families passed on him, and he just saved a life. Evelyn knelt, wrapping her arms around Charlie, tears streaking her face. "You're my hero, Charlie," she whispered. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Charlie licked her cheek once, then trotted to the edge of the clearing, still scanning, ever vigilant, before settling near her feet. The story spread through the community quickly. Everyone was in awe. A small beagle, previously rejected countless times, had shown courage, intelligence, and loyalty beyond measure. It wasn't just the act of finding her. It was the guidance, the protection, the patience, and the unyielding commitment that left a mark on everyone who witnessed it. For the volunteers, the forest, and even those following the story online, Charlie became a symbol of resilience, of second chances, and of the extraordinary instincts and devotion of animals. He had turned rejection into purpose, showing that the smallest among us often have the largest hearts. As Evelyn recovered from her ordeal, Charlie never left her side, guiding her carefully through familiar paths at home, reminding her with gentle nudges and soft barks that she could trust, that she could follow, and that she was never alone. The story became a lesson for everyone. Sometimes, those overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed are capable of the most profound acts of courage and love. Charlie, the beagle rejected 47 times, had become not only a lifesaver but a beacon of hope, loyalty, and determination for the entire community. By the time Evelyn Harper was finally let out of the forest by Charlie, the sunlight had begun to filter softly through the remaining mist, illuminating the treetops with a golden glow. Relief washed over her in waves, and she sank onto a patch of dry ground, tears streaking her cheeks, both from fear and from overwhelming gratitude. Charlie, panting lightly, tail wagging, circled around her, nudging her gently with his nose as if to check, "Are you really okay now?" The rescue volunteers who had been searching for hours approached, astonished at what they were witnessing. "I can't believe it," one said, brushing snow from the small dog's fur. "He led her all the way through that forest, all by himself." Evelyn's hands trembled as she reached down and held Charlie's face, looking into his dark, intelligent eyes. "You saved my life," she whispered. I can't thank you enough." Charlie licked her hands once, then trotted slightly ahead, turning to make sure she was following safely. Even now, he didn't leave her side. What amazed everyone wasn't just that a dog had led a lost person to safety. It was the patience, the determination, and the unwavering attention he had shown every step of the way. Each obstacle they had faced, the slick creek, the fallen logs, the twisting roots, the treacherous fog, was met with calm confidence from Charlie. He had navigated, guided, and protected, all while keeping Evelyn calm and encouraged. For the volunteers and the community that heard about the story later, it became more than a rescue. It was a lesson. Sometimes, the most capable heroes are those we overlook. Charlie had been rejected by 47 families before ever finding a home. Yet here he was, performing a feat no one had expected, saving a life, and demonstrating courage and loyalty beyond what words could describe. Evelyn's recovery over the next few days was slow but steady. Each walk she took through her own neighborhood, she never did so alone. Charlie always beside her, guiding, watching, and providing reassurance. Her family marveled at the bond that had formed in those terrifying hours, seeing firsthand how a small dog could have such a profound impact on a human life. They named him officially Charlie the Guardian, a reminder that sometimes those who have been overlooked or underestimated possess the greatest strength and devotion. The story didn't just stay in their family. Local news outlets picked it up, neighbors shared it on social media, and people across Oregon were inspired by a small beagle's courage. Comments flooded in praising his intelligence, loyalty, and bravery, and everyone seemed to resonate with the idea that second chances can lead to extraordinary outcomes. What had once been a dog that 47 families had rejected had become a symbol of hope, determination, and the extraordinary bonds between humans and animals. And for Evelyn, Charlie wasn't just a dog. He was her protector, her guide, her lifeline. Sitting together on the porch a few days later, she would often glance at him, a small smile breaking across her face. "I don't know what I would have done without you, Charlie," she said softly, and the beagle, ever aware, tilted his head as if to acknowledge her gratitude. He had changed her life in a way that no words could fully capture. For viewers watching this story on YouTube, there's a clear message. Courage can come in the smallest packages. Loyalty can overcome past rejection. And sometimes the most extraordinary acts of bravery happen quietly, without fanfare, and without expectation of reward. Charlie's story reminds us to pay attention to those overlooked, to recognize courage when we see it, and to value the quiet but profound acts of loyalty and protection around us. As the forest recedes behind them, as sunlight warms the trees and the trail opens to familiar paths, one cannot help but marvel at the power of instinct, intelligence, and love. Charlie had taken a woman from fear, confusion, and danger and delivered her safely back to the world, proving that even a small dog, dismissed and underestimated, could be a hero in every sense of the word. So, as you watch this story, ask yourself, who are the overlooked heroes in your life? Who acts with courage quietly, selflessly, and consistently, even when no one notices? And what would you do if you were in Evelyn's shoes, relying on someone or something to guide you through fear and uncertainty? Share your thoughts, your experiences, or stories of unexpected courage in the comments. Because Charlie's bravery isn't just a tale of one dog. It's a reminder of the loyalty, courage, and devotion that exists all around us, sometimes in the smallest, most surprising forms.